The afternoon sun cast long shadows through the windows of Elena Hartwell's suburban Seattle home as she pushed open the front door, lecture notes tucked under her arm. The community center had canceled her volunteer class early, something about a water main break. She'd thought about grabbing coffee, maybe taking the long way home, but the November chill had driven her inside instead. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. Sienna's cherry-red BMW sat in the driveway, engine still ticking as it cooled. Elena frowned. Her younger sister rarely visited unannounced, especially on weekdays when she should be at whatever influencer event was paying for drinks that week. The house felt wrong the moment Elena stepped inside. Too quiet. No TV voices, no music, just an unsettling stillness that made her skin prickle. She set her bag down carefully, listening. Then she heard it. Laughter, low and intimate, drifting from upstairs. Her feet moved before her mind could catch up, carrying her up the carpeted stairs she'd climbed 1,000 times. The bedroom door stood ajar. Through the gap, Elena saw them. Marcus, her husband of 5 years, his shirt unbuttoned. Sienna, her baby sister, wearing one of Elena's robes, her blonde hair mussed. They were laughing. Actually laughing. The door creaked as Elena pushed it wider. 2 heads turned. Marcus's expression didn't shift to guilt or shock. Instead, something like relief washed over his handsome features, as if he'd been waiting for this moment. "Elena," he said, not even bothering to button his shirt. "We need to talk." Sienna at least had the decency to look away, pulling the robe tighter. But she didn't move from where she sat on the edge of Elena's bed, didn't scramble to explain or apologize. "How long?" Elena's voice came out steadier than she felt, her archaeologist training kicking in. Observe, document, analyze. Even as her heart shattered. "Does it matter?" Marcus stood, running a hand through his dark hair. "Elena, I felt trapped for years. You gave up everything. Your career, your ambitions, and somehow that made you smaller. Less interesting." Each word landed like a physical blow. "I gave those up for you. For us. No one asked you to." His tone was cold, clinical, the voice he used with opposing counsel. "Sienna understands ambition. She wants things. You just settled." Sienna finally spoke, her voice small but defiant. "I didn't mean for this to happen, Ellie. But he sees me. Really sees me. Not like you, who always had everything." "Everything." Elena's laugh was hollow. "You're sleeping with my husband in my house, in my bed, and you think I have everything? You had chances." Sienna stood now, her eyes bright with unshed tears and something uglier. Jealousy mixed with triumph. "You were the smart one, the accomplished one. You could have been someone. I'm just trying to. Get out." Elena's voice dropped to a whisper. "Both of you, get out of my sight." Marcus had the audacity to look annoyed. "Elena, be reasonable. This is my house too. We need to discuss logistics, division of assets." But Elena was already moving, grabbing her grandfather's old hiking backpack from the closet, stuffing it with whatever her shaking hands could find. Clothes, her grandfather's compass, the emergency cash she kept hidden. Behind her, Marcus was still talking, his lawyer's voice droning about community property and mediation. She didn't remember getting to her car, didn't remember pulling out of the driveway or merging onto I-90 East. Rain began to fall as Seattle's skyline disappeared in her rearview mirror, the city giving way to suburbs, then forest. The Cascade Mountains rose ahead, their peaks hidden in gray clouds. Memories assaulted her as she drove. Marcus in graduate school, so charming, so supportive when her funding got cut. "You don't need a PhD to be fulfilled," he'd said. "We can build a life together. Start a family." But the family never came. The life they built was his house, his career, his rules. She'd shrunk herself to fit into his world, abandoning the promising archaeologist she'd been. And before Marcus? Dominic. The name surfaced like something dredged from deep water. Dominic Blackwell, with his gray eyes and brilliant mind, who'd made her feel seen in ways she'd forgotten were possible. Until he'd supposedly cheated, at least according to Marcus. Marcus, who'd been their friend, who'd shown her the texts, who'd held her while she cried. How much of her life had been built on lies? The cabin appeared through the rain like a memory made solid. Her grandfather James's place, left to her when he passed 3 years ago. She'd barely visited since the funeral. Marcus always had some excuse why they couldn't make the drive. Elena parked and sat in the growing darkness, rain drumming on the roof. Through the windshield, she could see the weathered porch where her grandfather had taught her to identify animal tracks, to read the forest's moods. The old logger had been the one constant in her chaotic childhood, offering refuge when her parents fought, teaching her that she was capable of more than she believed. She made it to the porch before the tears came. Great, gasping sobs that shook her entire body as she fumbled with the hidden key, finally stumbling inside. The cabin smelled of dust and cedar and memory. Her grandfather's flannel still hung by the door. Elena collapsed onto the worn couch, clutching a throw pillow, and let herself break. Not just for Marcus's betrayal or Sienna's treachery, but for all the years she'd lost, the woman she'd buried to become someone's convenient wife. Outside, the Pacific Northwest rain intensified, pounding the roof in a rhythm that eventually lulled her into exhausted sleep. She didn't know that by tomorrow, she'd dig something out of the earth that would change everything. She didn't know that her past and present were about to collide in ways she couldn't imagine. All she knew was that she couldn't be that small, diminished person anymore. Whatever came next, she would face it as herself, the woman her grandfather had raised her to be. Dawn broke gray and cold over the Cascades. Elena woke on the couch, disoriented, her neck stiff and her eyes swollen from crying. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then it all crashed back. Marcus, Sienna, the betrayal. She forced herself up, moving through the cabin on autopilot. Her grandfather's old percolator still worked, and she made coffee strong enough to strip paint, drinking it black while staring at the forest beyond the window. The rain had stopped, leaving everything dripping and fresh. She needed to move, needed to do something other than replay yesterday's nightmare in her head. Her grandfather's voice echoed in her memory. When you're hurting, let the forest heal you. Elena pulled on her hiking boots, old ones she'd left here years ago, and her grandfather's weathered jacket. In the mudroom, his walking stick still leaned in the corner, the wood smooth from decades of use. She grabbed it, tested its weight. Solid, reliable, unlike everything else in her life. The trail behind the cabin was overgrown but familiar. She'd hiked it countless times as a girl, learning to read the forest the way her grandfather had taught her. Which mushrooms were safe, which tracks belonged to deer or elk, how to find water, how to navigate by the sun even on cloudy days. Funny how it all came back. Her body remembered the rhythm of the trail, the way to place her feet on the uneven ground. Her mind began to quiet, focusing on the immediate, the smell of wet earth, the drip of water from pine needles, the distant call of a raven. She was maybe 2 miles in when she noticed something off. The birds had gone quiet. Not the normal silence of a predator nearby, but something else. Something wrong. Elena stopped, tilting her head to listen. Her grandfather had taught her that the forest always told you what was happening if you paid attention. Birds went silent for bears, for cougars, for... She heard it. Faint but distinct. A rhythmic thumping, muffled, coming from somewhere nearby. Her archaeologist's training kicked in, that same methodical observation that had once made her a promising researcher. She scanned the area, looking for disturbances. There, near a massive fallen cedar, the earth looked wrong. Too loose, too fresh. Branches arranged in a pattern that wasn't natural. The thumping came again, stronger now that she was closer. Someone was down there, under the ground. Elena dropped to her knees, pressing her ear to the earth. Yes, definitely something, someone, beneath the surface. She grabbed her grandfather's walking stick and began clearing away branches with shaking hands, then started digging with her bare fingers. "Hold on," she shouted. "I'm coming. Just hold on." The earth was packed, but not solid, like someone had refilled a hole recently. She dug frantically, dirt jamming under her fingernails, her breath coming in gasps. A piece of wood appeared, a board, part of a makeshift cover. She pried at it with the walking stick, muscles burning. The board gave way with a crack that echoed through the silent forest. More boards, more earth. She tore at them, uncovering a space below. And then she saw him. A man, bound and gagged, his expensive suit filthy with dirt. Blood caked one side of his face. But his eyes, gray, desperate, alive, locked onto hers with an intensity that nearly stopped her heart. "I've got you," she gasped, reaching down. I've got you. She pulled the gag away first. He sucked in air, coughing, dirt falling from his mouth. Elena worked at the ropes binding his wrists, her fingers clumsy with adrenaline. Easy, she murmured, the way her grandfather had talked to frightened animals. You're safe now. I'm getting you out. The ropes finally gave way. She hooked her arms under his shoulders and pulled. He was heavy, dead weight from being bound so long, but she'd hauled equipment through excavation sites. She could do this. One hard pull, and he was out, collapsing onto the forest floor beside the grave. His grave. Someone had buried him alive. Elena knelt beside him, checking his pulse with trembling fingers. Weak but steady, she brushed dirt from his face, revealing features she'd once known intimately. Features she'd tried to forget for 15 years. Dominic. His eyes opened again, focusing on her with difficulty. Recognition flashed, followed by disbelief. Elena. His voice was hoarse, broken. Elena Morrison? I'm so sorry, she whispered, the words tumbling out before she could stop them. For leaving him, for believing the lies, for all the wasted years. I'm so sorry. Then his eyes rolled back and he slumped against her, unconscious but breathing. Elena held him, this ghost from her past, while the forest watched in silence. She had to get him back to the cabin, had to get him warm and safe. Questions could wait. Right now, survival was all that mattered. Elena Morrison Hartwell, who'd spent 5 years making herself smaller, felt something awaken inside her, the competent, capable woman she'd been before Marcus convinced her she was nothing. She would save this man. She would save herself. And then she would find out who had done this. Getting Dominic back to the cabin was the hardest thing Elena had ever done. He kept fading in and out of consciousness, his weight pressing against her as she half-dragged, half-carried him through the forest. Every few yards, she had to stop and catch her breath, resettling his arm across her shoulders. Stay with me, she kept saying, though she wasn't sure if she was talking to him or herself. We're almost there. Just a little further. He mumbled things she couldn't quite hear. Names, fragments of sentences about his father, about betrayal. Once, clearly, he said her name like a question. Elena? I'm here, she answered. I've got you. The trail that had taken her an hour to hike stretched into an eternity on the return. Her muscles screamed. Her lungs burned. But she didn't stop. Couldn't stop. Not when she just pulled him from a grave. Not when every minute might make the difference. By the time she got him onto the cabin's porch, she was sobbing with effort. She kicked the door open and dragged him inside, maneuvering him onto the old couch. His head lolled to one side. Think. Her grandfather's voice again, steady and calm. Assess the damage. Address the immediate threats. Elena's hands moved with purpose now, stripping away his ruined suit jacket, checking for obvious injuries. Broken ribs, maybe, from the bruising on his torso. The head wound had clotted but needed cleaning. His breathing was shallow but regular. Hypothermia was the immediate danger. She grabbed every blanket in the cabin, piling them over him. Then she got the fire going in the old stone fireplace, coaxing flames from kindling with shaking hands. Her grandfather had taught her well. The fire caught and held, spreading warmth through the room. Water, bandages, antiseptic. Elena moved through the cabin, gathering supplies from her grandfather's well-stocked first aid kit. She'd done basic field medicine on archaeological digs. This was just bigger stakes. She cleaned the head wound carefully, relieved to find it looked worse than it was. His pulse was stronger now, his color improving as warmth seeped back into him. She wrapped his ribs as best she could, using torn sheets since she didn't have proper bandages. It was only when she sat back, exhausted, that the reality hit her. Dominic Blackwell. The boy. No, the man she'd loved and left 15 years ago. The one she'd walked away from based on lies Marcus had fed her about cheating and betrayal. Marcus. The thought of him sent ice through her veins. This couldn't be coincidence. You left me. Dominic's voice was rough but coherent. His gray eyes, clearer now, fixed on her face. You just disappeared. No explanation. No goodbye. Elena sank onto the floor beside the couch, unable to meet his gaze. Marcus told me you'd been cheating. He showed me texts, messages. Said you'd been laughing about me with your friends. Marcus Hartwell? Dominic tried to sit up, winced, and fell back. Your husband. You know him? But of course he did. They'd all been friends once, the three of them, before everything fractured. He was my friend. In college. I trusted him. Dominic's voice turned bitter. He showed you fake evidence. I believed him. Elena's voice broke. I was so stupid. I believed every word. He said you'd never really cared, that I was just a challenge to you. And I ran. Didn't even give you a chance to explain. I looked for you. Dominic closed his eyes, pain etching lines around his mouth. For months. You'd changed your number, moved apartments. It was like you'd vanished. Marcus helped me get over you. The words tasted bitter. He was so supportive, so understanding. 5 years later, I married him. Silence stretched between them, filled only by the fire's crackle. Finally, Dominic spoke again. Someone buried me alive. Kidnapped me from outside my office. Drugged me. I woke up in that hole. Who? Elena leaned forward. Who would do that? I don't know. 2 men, professionals. But before they knocked me out again, I heard one of them on the phone. He said, Marcus confirmed the payment. The name hung in the air like poison. No. Elena shook her head. He's awful, but he wouldn't. 3 days ago, I received an anonymous email. Dominic's eyes were hard now, focused despite the pain. Evidence that Marcus has been on Victor Strand's payroll for over a decade. That he helped destroy my father's company 15 years ago. Elena felt the floor tilt beneath her. Your father died. From a heart attack triggered by corporate espionage. Someone stole our patents, ruined us. My father couldn't handle it. Dominic's jaw clenched. I've been investigating for years. The trail always went cold. Until that email. I was on my way to confront Marcus when they grabbed me. Marcus did this. But even as she said it, Elena knew it was true. The man who'd isolated her from her career, who'd systematically demolished her confidence, who'd been sleeping with her sister. Of course he was capable of more. We were both his victims. Dominic reached out, his dirt-stained hand finding hers. He took you from me 15 years ago. He tried to kill me now. Elena's phone sat on the table, useless. No signal this deep in the mountains. She'd have to hike to the main road tomorrow to call for help. You need rest, she said finally. We both do. In the morning, I'll get to somewhere with signal, call the police. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time. So if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Elena. His grip tightened on her hand. Thank you. For digging me up. For bringing me here. Don't. She couldn't handle gratitude. Not when her own blindness had played into Marcus's hands for so long. Just rest. But as night fell and Dominic finally slept, Elena sat by the fire, watching the flames dance. Somewhere out there, Marcus was probably wondering where she'd gone. Probably worried she'd discovered more than just his affair. He had no idea what she'd found instead. Outside, the forest was silent. Too silent. And in the distance, Elena thought she heard the rumble of engines. They were coming back. Morning came too quickly. Elena woke slumped in the armchair by the fire, her neck protesting. Dominic was awake, propped against the couch cushions, watching her with those gray eyes that had once made her feel like the only person in the world. Tell me everything, she said, moving to make weak tea with the cabin's meager supplies. About your father, about Victor Strand, about why someone wanted you dead. Dominic took the chipped mug she offered, his hands steadier now. My father, William Blackwell, had a tech company 15 years ago. Revolutionary patents, breakthrough designs. Then suddenly, our competitors had identical products. Patent theft, industrial espionage. We lost everything. I remember, Elena said softly. You were devastated when he died. The heart attack killed him, but it was the betrayal that broke him first. Dominic's voice hardened. I've spent a decade building Blackwell Innovations, investigating who destroyed him. Every lead pointed to Victor Strand, but I couldn't prove the connection. Until that email. The one about Marcus? He nodded. Detailed evidence. Bank transfers from Strand to Marcus dating back to our college years. Marcus wasn't just my friend. He was Strand's inside man. He fed them information about my father's company, facilitated the theft. And then what? The email suggested Marcus was paid to separate us. That a heartbroken, isolated version of me would be easier to destroy professionally. Dominic's laugh was bitter. It worked. After you left, I threw myself into work, trusted no one. Made me vulnerable in different ways. Elena felt sick. So Marcus married me to what? Keep tabs on you. To make sure you stayed broken and away from me. You were smart, capable. Together, we might have been unstoppable. He paused. 3 days ago, I decided to confront him. I never made it. 2 men ambushed me in the parking garage. The pieces fell together like artifacts at a dig site. Marcus's insistence she give up her career. His isolation tactics. The way he'd kept her small and uncertain. I heard them on the phone, Dominic continued. One said, Marcus confirmed the payment. 50 million when it's done. Then they drove me here, buried me alive. Said they'd come back to finish it after the search parties gave up. Elena's blood went cold. They're coming back? As if summoned by her words, the distant rumble of engines echoed through the forest. ATVs, getting closer. Dominic tried to stand, collapsed. We can't stay here. You can barely walk. But Elena was already moving, grabbing supplies. Her grandfather's voice guided her. Know the land better than your enemy. There's a back trail, she said. They can't follow ATVs through thick forest. Can you make it? Dominic nodded, gritting his teeth as she helped him up. They stumbled out the back door as the engine's sounds grew louder. Elena led him into the dense tree cover, supporting his weight, her mind racing through every trail her grandfather had shown her. Behind them, she heard men's voices. Angry. Searching. They'd found the empty cabin. Elena half-carried Dominic deeper into the forest, every step a calculated risk. His breathing came in ragged gasps, but he didn't complain. Behind them, voices called out, professional, methodical. The kidnappers weren't amateurs. She found the depression behind a massive fallen cedar, just where she remembered. They collapsed into it, pressing against damp earth and rotting wood. Through the lattice of branches, Elena watched 2 men search the cabin area. The target escaped, one said into a radio. Large, scarred, moving with military precision. Marcus promised the body would stay buried. Now we've got complications. The other man, leaner but equally dangerous, responded. Split up. He can't have gone far with those injuries. We finish this now. They separated, one heading toward the ridge, the other circling toward their hiding spot. Elena felt Dominic tense beside her. She pressed a finger to her lips, thinking frantically. Her grandfather had taught her to read the forest, but he'd also taught her how to use it. The terrain near Eagle's Drop was unstable, especially after rain. Stay here, she mouthed to Dominic. Trust me. Before he could protest, she was moving, snapping a branch deliberately, making just enough noise. The nearer kidnappers had whipped around. Elena ran, leading him away from Dominic, her boots finding purchase on paths she'd known since childhood. The man followed, confident, weapon drawn. Stop running, lady. We don't want to hurt you. Just tell us where Blackwell is. Elena headed for the ravine, her heart pounding. She could hear the man behind her, gaining ground. At the last second, she veered left, onto solid ground she knew from memory. The kidnapper didn't. His next step landed on crumbling earth at the ravine's edge. For a moment, he teetered, arms windmilling. Then he dropped with a yell, catching a tree root 15 feet down. Alive, but trapped. Luca, the other man's voice, distant but approaching. Luca, where are you? Meanwhile, back at the cabin, Dominic had found Elena's phone and her grandfather's old emergency radio, dust-covered but possibly functional. His hands shook as he tried to remember the basics from his brief military training consultation years ago. The second kidnapper, Nico, found Elena at the ravine's edge, his brother dangling below. His weapon was trained on her, but his eyes were on Luca, whose grip on the root was slipping. Help him, Nico said, voice raw with fear. Please. He's my brother. Elena assessed the situation. One wrong move, and Luca would fall 100 feet to rocks and rapids. But Nico's weapon hand was shaking, his professional facade cracking. I'll help, she said carefully. But you tell me everything. Who hired you? What? Marcus Hartwell. Nico's composure shattered. He hired us, through Victor Strand. Gave us Blackwell's schedule, security codes, everything. $50 million to make it look like Blackwell disappeared in the mountains. Why? Strand wanted the company. Blackwell wouldn't sell. So they planned to kill him, create a succession crisis, swoop in with a takeover bid. Nico's eyes were desperate. Please, my brother. Give me the gun, Elena said. Then we save him together. To her surprise, Nico handed over the weapon. She tossed it aside and knelt at the ravine's edge. Between them, they managed to pull Luca up, inch by agonizing inch. When he finally collapsed on solid ground, both brothers were sobbing with relief. I'm done, Nico said, sitting heavily. This whole thing, I'm done. I'll testify, give you everything. Names, dates, bank transfers. Just no more. Elena believed him. In his eyes, she saw exhaustion, not evil. Men caught in someone else's web, finally seeing a way out. Back at the cabin, static crackled from the emergency radio. Dominic had gotten it working. His message was brief, coordinates clear. This is Dominic Blackwell. Send help to Morrison Cabin, Cascade Mountains. Kidnapping victim, suspects on site. Marcus Hartwell involved. In Seattle, Reed Garrison received the transmission in Blackwell Innovations headquarters. Relief flooded him. Dominic was alive. He immediately called the authorities and Sheriff Tom Braddock, then volunteered to lead the rescue himself. Marcus, monitoring police frequencies through contacts Victor Strand had paid for, heard the transmission too. His carefully constructed plan was collapsing. Dominic was alive. Elena had found him. The Russo brothers were compromised. He made 2 calls. First to Strand. It's falling apart. Clean up protocols. Second to Reed. I'm coming with you to find Dominic. He'll need someone he trusts. Reed, unaware, agreed. Marcus smiled coldly and reached for the weapon he kept in his desk drawer. If the Russo brothers had failed, he'd finish the job himself. As Elena returned to the cabin with Nico and Luca in tow, she had no idea that the real monster was already on his way, wearing the mask of a concerned friend, ready to eliminate everyone who knew the truth. Elena returned to find Dominic alert, the emergency radio crackling beside him. The Russo brothers followed, Luca limping, both subdued. They're cooperating, Elena said. They've told me everything. Dominic listened as Nico laid out the conspiracy. Victor Strand had hired Marcus 15 years ago not just to destroy William Blackwell's company, but to destabilize Dominic personally. Separating Elena from Dominic had been strategic. A heartbroken man made poor decisions, trusted the wrong people. Marcus married you to keep you isolated, Dominic said quietly, pieces clicking together. To make sure we never reconnected. Elena's phone suddenly buzzed, brief signal. Sienna's name flashed on screen. She answered, hands shaking. Elena. Sienna's voice was panicked, crying. Marcus is planning to kill you. I heard him on the phone. I found files on his laptop, everything, 15 years of communications with Victor Strand. I'm sending them now. Please, I'm so sorry. The files came through before the signal died. Encrypted documents, bank transfers, detailed plans. Proof of everything. Your sister just saved us, Dominic said, scanning through them on Elena's phone. Meanwhile, Sheriff Braddock had been investigating Marcus's financials. $100,000 cash withdrawal the day before Dominic's disappearance. When Reed's call came through about the rescue mission, Braddock insisted on joining. But Marcus had already positioned himself as Reed's companion, the concerned friend eager to help. They were 30 minutes out. Reed's SUV appeared on the logging road, Sheriff Braddock's vehicle trailing behind. Dominic texted Reed urgently. Marcus is the insider. Armed and dangerous. Inside the vehicle, Reed glanced at the message, then at Marcus beside him. Marcus saw the shift in Reed's expression and pulled his weapon smoothly. Drive past the sheriff. Now, Reed's military training kicked in. He slammed the brakes, dove from the vehicle as Marcus fired. The bullet shattered the windshield. Reed rolled, reaching for his own weapon. Marcus ran toward the cabin, desperation replacing calculation. Elena. Dominic. It doesn't have to end like this. We can still fix this. They emerged together, Dominic leaning heavily on Elena. Behind them, the Russo brothers appeared, hands raised. It's over, Marcus, Elena said, her voice steady. Sienna sent me everything. Strand's being arrested in Seattle right now. You've lost. Marcus's facade crumbled. The charming lawyer became something feral. You ruined everything. Both of you. You were supposed to stay broken, stay apart. He raised the weapon toward Dominic. Elena stepped between them without hesitation. Move, Marcus snarled. No. Reed tackled Marcus from behind, both men crashing to the ground. The weapon discharged harmlessly into the trees. Within seconds, Sheriff Braddock and his deputies swarmed in, securing Marcus in handcuffs. Marcus looked at Elena, and for a moment, she saw something almost human in his eyes. Fear. Victor will kill me in prison, he whispered. That's not my problem anymore, Elena replied. 6 weeks later, Elena sat in a Seattle hotel room. unable to return to the house she'd shared with Marcus. Federal prosecutors were building their case. Marcus faced life imprisonment. Victor Strand even more. Dr. Isabel Grant visited, her former archaeology professor, bringing both comfort and opportunity. We're excavating a historic logging site. I want you to lead it. Come back to who you were meant to be. Elena hesitated, confidence shattered by years of Marcus's manipulation. But Dominic's daily phone calls helped. Their conversations evolved from case updates to something deeper, rediscovering each other. Catherine Blackwell invited Elena for tea. Dominic's mother remembered her fondly from college. My son was never the same after you left. Now I understand why. Welcome back. The hardest conversation came with Sienna. Her sister arrived hollow-eyed, having lost everything. I don't expect forgiveness, Sienna said. But I needed you to know. I never understood how evil he was until I heard him planning your murder. I was jealous, stupid, but not that. Elena studied her sister, seeing genuine remorse. You saved my life with those files. That counts for something. But trust? That takes time. Sienna nodded, tears falling. However long it takes. The Russo brothers accepted plea deals, their testimony crucial. Marcus was denied bail. Victor Strand's empire crumbled as investigators uncovered decades of crimes. And through it all, Dominic's voice on the phone each night became Elena's anchor. They were building something real this time, brick by careful brick. I'm thinking of accepting Dr. Grant's offer, Elena told him one evening. You should, Dominic replied. Be who you're meant to be. I'll be here, cheering you on. For the first time in years, Elena believed her future held possibility instead of prison. 6 months after the cabin, spring transformed Seattle into something hopeful. Elena stood at her excavation site, leading a team through a 19th-century logging settlement ironically close to her grandfather's property. Her published paper on historical preservation techniques had reopened doors she'd thought permanently closed. Dominic arrived at lunch, watching her explain artifact significance to students with infectious enthusiasm. She was covered in dirt, radiant, completely herself. He'd restructured Blackwell Innovations with Reed as equal partner and established the William Blackwell Foundation, funding ethical business practices and supporting corporate crime victims. His father's tragedy had become positive impact. They'd been dating carefully, attending therapy individually and together. No rushing. No desperate salvation narratives. Just two people choosing each other consciously. During break, they walked to a clearing overlooking the Cascades, not far from where everything changed. I want to build something real with you, Dominic said, taking her hand. Not because we need rescuing, but because we choose each other. Every day. Elena's eyes filled with tears. I choose you. Not the boy I loved at 20, not the man I rescued, but who you are now, and who I'm becoming. They didn't get engaged, weren't rushing anything, but this commitment felt more solid than any ring. Marcus had received 25 years. Victor Strand awaited trial. Sienna was rebuilding independently, respecting Elena's boundaries while working toward genuine redemption. Catherine Blackwell had become the mother Elena never had. Reed and Elena were genuine friends. Sheriff Braddock occasionally visited with case updates. Dominic surprised me, Elena told her excavation team later. He's funding an endowed chair in historical preservation. In my grandfather's name. That evening, they visited the cabin together. No longer a trauma site, but a symbol of survival and choice. We've spent so long uncovering buried things, Elena said, watching sunset paint the mountains gold. Now we get to plant something new. Together, Dominic agreed. They walked into the forest hand in hand, facing forward, building a future where the past informed but didn't define them. Where love was conscious daily practice, not desperate salvation. They'd rescued themselves. Now they chose each other. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.